Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to another edition of Fridays with Sandy. That would be Sandy Kreisberg,
Hi
APS
all,
guru.
Sandy here from the shadows. Yeah,
We have a candidate who wants a mock interview. He's applying to UT Austin, Duke, Cornell, UVA Darden, and Georgetown McDonough. And he works for Morgan Stanley in a research role in Ohio. So it's a mock interview. It's not a handicapping, and I think it's going to be very helpful.
yeah, I think it'll be helpful for, well, let's meet Mark first. Mark, just say hello there so we
Hi,
get
everybody.
on the tape.
I'm sorry. Thank you for having me, John and Sandy.
Okay, that's Mark, another one of our attractive candidates. He used to have a career at Gentleman Quarterly as a model, and then just joking. But another one of our attractive candidates in every sense of the word. Let me give you the
He's got a
lowdown.
720 GMAT, 720 GMAT, 3.7 GPA in econ from Ohio State, and Morgan Stanley, but in a back office role.
Yeah, there are two types of interviews. There's the Harvard interview, which is basically going through your resume, and a lot of school, the HBS interview it's mostly going through your resume. They just take every line on your resume and they say, tell me about your decision to do this. Tell me about your decision to do that. Describe your first job. What was this about your first job? That's the way a lot of interviews go. And then there is what's called a behavioral interview, which asks questions like, what role do you play in a team? You know, how do you, give me an example. Tell me about a time you got criticized. What was it? Tell me about a time you received feedback. So we're going to mix it up with both those types of interviews, okay? So let's start with this frequent question. You know, hi, Mark, how are you? Could you tell me about your decision to attend The Ohio State University?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to start off, I actually transferred to Ohio State from Wake Forest University. So,
Well, then tell me about your decision to attend Wake Forest.
my decision back then was largely based on where Wake Forest fell in the rankings. I considered it to be one of the better schools that I had gotten into. And so that essentially informed my decision to really look at there, and then I enjoyed it well enough on the visits.
Okay, John, what would grade that answer?
Well, I want to know why you left and went to Ohio
No. Let's
State.
just deal with why you went there. Let's just take the more common question.
Yeah, I would never mention a ranking because schools, as much as they are obsessed with rankings, just like applicants, they hate them. So I
Well,
would
they
say,
hate that. They hate you admitting it. That's what they
yeah. So I would say we went there because the school had a great reputation. I knew I would get a quality education there. It was an opportunity for me to live in a different part of the country and to experience something very different.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The classic answer is, where'd you go to high school, Mark?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, and then I went to high school in Cleveland, Ohio. It was an academically oriented high school. I either wanted to get away from there or stay close by, whatever the facts are. They're interested in your decision-making process. I visited the school and was impressed by this and this. Also mentioned, you know, my father is an alumni, so that was a real factor. Another reason was at the time I was interested in economics, and they had a real good economics program. That's the classic answer for why you attended X college. Okay, so then why did you transfer?
Well, I decided after a year there that while I enjoyed the academics, I didn't really feel much of a connection to the school. And I spent it was costing me a lot of money to not particularly enjoy myself that much. So I decided to take the opportunity to look at other locations, apply to, I believe, 2 or 3 schools. And Ohio State just made the most sense to me. My mother was an alumni there, so I always felt a bit of a connection to the school. And the fact that it was so big and I was somewhat familiar with it, I knew I wasn't going to be starting behind the 8 ball coming in as a transfer. I was fairly familiar with the location.
That's an okay answer. What you haven't put your finger on is what was wrong with the first place. You haven't put your finger on that in a politically correct, acceptable way.
What's politically correct? He didn't like it.
Well, there's a possible way to give a disastrous answer to that, you know. Well, it was a school that was near a big city, and there was a lot of, people from different backgrounds, and that bugged me because I like homogeneous backgrounds. Okay, how's that as an answer for I didn't like it, John?
Well, that's not a good answer. Right.
Right. Okay, your answer. So what's your answer? That was just for purposes of illustration. What's your answer?
Well, quite frankly, it's almost the exact opposite of that. Wake Forest was a place where everyone was very much the same. It felt like I wasn't getting much of a diverse experience, and that's something that I really wanted with my college education. And it's something that I knew I was going to be able to find at Ohio State.
Yeah, okay.
Being so large.
Good. Okay, so then you got to the Ohio State University. What was that like? Sometimes it's an open answer. This is an open-ended question, and the trick is to figure out some way to answer it quickly.
Yeah. Long story short, it was a fantastic time. I learned a great amount. I was able to meet a large amount of people who I still consider friends to this day. Quite frankly, I was just able to grow a lot as a person and find out what I wanted to do with my career.
Okay, that's all right. What was your favorite course?
Labor economics.
Good. Okay, so then tell me about, what just between me and you here, what was your first job out of college was what? Stone's Phones?
That was an internship I held in college. My first job out of college was with a medical startup in Columbus called Crosschecks.
Okay, so tell me about your decision to join Crosschecks.
Well, I actually had known someone who was working with the company and had been there for about a year. And in speaking with them, they had a lot to say.
Well, what do they do? Could you tell me what they do?
Yeah, they were actually in the same role that I would wind up taking, which was business development.
No, I'm sorry. What does Crosschecks do?
Oh, my apologies. Crosschecks, when I was there at least, I believe they've since pivoted, but it was dealing with medical records on the front end of hospitals and attempting to get a fingerprint scanner into the hospitals to sort of break down the barriers of medical records and avoid medical errors from occurring.
Do you understand that, John?
Yeah.
Well, that's the trouble when I'm dealing with a smart guy like John. Could you tell me that again?
Medical records are a part
No,
of the
not John. Mark.
healthcare system that are really problematic.
Mark, tell me, what does Crosschecks do?
Yeah, its main product was a fingerprint scanner that was placed at the front desk of hospitals, doctors' offices that would attach a patient's medical records to their biometrics. And so patients' medical records would travel with them rather than being locked down to a single hospital.
Okay, that I understand. Good.
Yeah, much better explanation.
And then they'll dig into that. They'll go, boy, did that. Well, I want to skip to a more important thing. Very often, the first let's start all over again. Just very often the first, hey there, how are you? This is often the first question, and you've got to be ready to deliver on this. How are you, Mark? Have a seat. How you doing? Could you tell me what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm working for Morgan Stanley in their back office in the wealth management field in Columbus, Ohio.
How do you like that?
It has its ups and its downs, but I really enjoyed the opportunity in my role to kind of deal with the problem solving, and I enjoyed a good amount.
Okay, John, here's a question. Should you say I work in the back office at Morgan Stanley?
No, definitely not.
What should you say?
He should say he's a research associate, and then tell him what he actually does. But don't you ever use back office.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And you could say, and when you went from operations associate to research associate, was that considered a promotion?
Yes, it was considered a promotion, not as big as one as I would have appreciated, but it was certainly a promotion from my first role at the company.
So you need to play that up, and don't say that it's not as much as you wanted.
Yeah, those kind of ironic sidebar comments. I appreciate them, but it's deadly in an interview.
Understood.
You sound like a wise guy, which is okay by me, but they don't use the Sandy value system to admit people. So from a school's point of view, they don't want wise guys. They like straight shooters.
And Mark, if you were to put the highest level description on what you currently do, what would you say it is, day to day?
Day to day, I would say I am a mini project manager, taking in all the problems that different participants face and doing my best to help solve them.
They might let that slide. What you still haven't got is, tell me what you're doing now. So I work for Morgan Stanley in Columbus, Ohio. A good deal of our project work is wealth management. That involves blah, 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 and my role is A, B, and C, or something like that. Could you do it that way?
Yeah. To say what I do, I work with Morgan Stanley in Columbus, Ohio in the wealth management department. I'm a research associate and help different participants solve problems such as IT issues, tax forms, and also general stock questions.
Now, when you say participants, do you mean internal people or do you mean customers?
I mean participants in different employee stock plans for various companies, such as places like Amazon and Cisco, and others.
So you're helping them manage Morgan Stanley's relationship with major clients.
To an extent, yes.
That's how you want to say it. And then and the major clients are Amazon and blah, 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 right? And when there's a problem, your job is to...
Yeah, I handle a variety of problems.
Yeah.
Some of them are, high level. Some of them are just people need to find out where X is.
Don't use the word participant. Use the word highly valued customers of the firm, like Amazon and blankety blank. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's the kind of an abbreviated version of a walk through your resume. A typical question on that mode is also, tell me about what you think your biggest success, any way you want to define it, was at Morgan Stanley.
My biggest success was actually in my initial role as an operations associate. I was able to discover an issue that was going on with one of the projects that I was dealing with that, long story short, involved some of our clients receiving incorrect funds.
Yeah, you gotta get this ready for prime time here, man, right?
Okay. Sorry, yeah, I was in charge of my team's part of a project, and I discovered that a different department had been making an error in the project.
Nah, you have to give it a name. If they say, what's your greatest success? You go, the 3 months I spent reorganizing our X system, or whatever the truth is. You follow me?
My greatest accomplishment at Morgan Stanley was finding the issues with the abandoned property projects, which involved it getting examined by upper management, and actually had the project.
Yeah, reforming the abandoned property. My biggest success at Morgan Stanley was the X months I spent reforming our abandoned property procedures. That's it, right?
Okay.
Okay, let's do the other version of let's put some behavioral questions in here. You know, tell me about the last time you got feedback. What did they say?
Well, one of the last times I received feedback was my former role as an operations associate. I was just joined a new team within the role and was told, you know, we were being overloaded with work. I wasn't going to be able to keep up with it by myself and the other person who was on the team. So they were going to bring in other people to help me because I wasn't able to do quite enough.
That's not a review. That sounds like, you know, that's not a performance review.
Okay.
Right?
All right, well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, my last performance review that I had with my manager was very straightforward. I did bring up a mistake that I had made and asked, you know, what else I could do in the future to avoid making it. And he'd said that I had made it because, simply put, I was lazy, and that no matter what, I had to take action.
I wouldn't say that in an interview.
Okay.
This question about, tell me about your last review, that comes up scary. So what you need is a version of it that says a number of things came up. What they told me on the positive side was 1, 2, and 3. And on the development side, they said A and B. Can you do it that way?
Yeah. So one of the things that came up positively in my last review is that even though I'm fairly new to the team, my manager saw that I'd been making great strides with gaining all the general knowledge and really catching up to everybody else on the team. Things that I needed to improve on. I would say my follow through was sometimes not as well as it could have been. I had to be more forceful on the emails with the people I was dealing with and making sure that our clients' issues were being solved as quickly as possible.
Okay, good. That's a good answer. Tell me about a review that you've ever had in your professional career where you disagreed with it.
I would say one of my reviews at Crosschecks after I'd become a national account executive, I was told by my boss that, you know, I wasn't performing as well as I could have been. I wasn't taking all the advantages that were being given to me and taking advantage of all the resources I had. And I profoundly disagreed with him.
Okay, so what did you say to him?
Yeah.
Did you say that's wrong, or did you just say thank you?
I explained how I thought he was wrong and how I thought I could possibly make a different change. I didn't just say thank you. I did try to explain myself or come from a place of going, this is where I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's but you get these are commonly asked questions about reviews. What what role do you typically play in a? No, tell me about a team. Last time you worked in a team setting, and what role did you play?
Yeah, the last time I worked on, I would say a very close team is in my position right now. Every so often we have problems come up that no one has necessarily seen before. And so when we all get together.
Who's on the team? You got to start with that.
Okay, yeah, I'm on it's a team of me and the various research associates in my department.
How many?
Including me, there are 5 people on the team.
Yeah, so anytime you get a team question, you got to say, sometimes they say, what's a typical team engagement with you? You go, I typically work with 5 people in the blah blah department, so there's 6 of us, and there's no designated leader, so it's a flat team. Okay, got to get these words like a flat team and a hierarchical team, like you know the difference, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So to our viewers out there, when you're preparing for an interview, be prepared for what role you play in flat teams, what role you've played in hierarchical teams, what role you've played as a team leader. Okay, those are very common areas of inquiry. All right. What is your typical leadership style?
I would say my leadership style is an attempt to be very transparent with people. I let them know what's expected of them. I let them know how we can achieve the goal that we're striving for. And I let them know that generally I'm trust them to do their job. And I know they don't need me to be micromanaging them.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, here's a question. Tell me a leader you admire and why.
A leader I would say I would admire would be my last boss at Crosschecks. It was at a time in the company where we were at a weird pivot within the company. He was introduced to us. He had just come in from outside of the company, and he really brought our team together. We had kind of been struggling to coalesce, but his leadership style really brought us together, and so I try to emulate.
What's the best thing he ever said to you?
The best thing he ever said is, this is what we have to do. No matter what, we have to reach this goal. If you can't help us, you're going to be gone, but I'm going to do my best to make sure we get there together.
Good. Okay, so what do you need to become a leader like him in terms of both experiences and personal development?
I would say I really just need to start off just the experience. Every leadership experience I have is not so much one that I can put on my resume, but it's one that I've sought on my own. It's within project management. It's in small teams. What I need is the opportunity to really lead not necessarily a large group, but to lead a coalesced group in which I'm the firm decision maker.
Yeah. Okay, that was good. You're getting better here. What do you think, John?
Yeah, definitely. Why not the penultimate question? Why do you want an MBA?
Yeah, well, the reason I'm looking for an MBA is I've gotten to the point in my career that I'm looking to make a shift. And I think an MBA is going to provide me with the general business knowledge and leadership skills that I need in order to achieve my new goal. In addition to that,
This is sounding with this kiss of death here. What is this sounding like, John? The word begins with S and it's not an obscenity.
I don't know. What?
Scripted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think you want to play a more meaningful role and have the.
You have to. Well, it just might be the way you were saying it. You have to make it personalized. You say, "What do you need an MBA?" You go, "Well, my goals are, to do this and this, and in order to do that, I want an MBA to learn to be exposed to leadership skills. I want an MBA to learn certain substantive issues like, the first year courses that you're, like accounting and finance and blah, blah, blah. And I want an MBA to learn from my other students and to also network. See, the job I want after my MBA is this. So an MBA would really help me get that job. So those are the things you want to bring to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Mark, ultimately, you want to go back to Morgan Stanley, but in a more substantive role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they might ask you a technical question about, do you need an MBA or are you being sponsored? You don't have to answer this, but those are typical questions.
Sure, he needs an MBA. He studied econ. He got mostly theory, and now he needs more practical, on-the-ground advice.
Yeah, I meant to
meaningful career.
To the people. You say you want to go back to Morgan Stanley in X job. Do people who currently have that job have MBAs? That's what I was driving
at. Yes.
Okay, so that's important.
Do
you want to do investment banking or what do you want to do?
Not necessarily investment banking. I know my background. I don't think I really have too much of an experience in that. So I do want to be involved in the business, but from a different perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Good. Let's. So that's the way an interview goes, just to generalize this. You really need to be, everyone who's going to be interviewed, you really need to be able to explain what you're doing now in some punchy way. You need to be able to explain what you've done at each job. You need to be able to explain why you went to college X. Basically, for every section of your resume, you need to be able to explain what you do, why you did it, and why you took the next thing. Okay, so that's our. This is a little longer than most of our handicappings, but it's valuable. That's our rough and ready guide to what you'll be facing at an MBA interview. Okay, John, you want to?
Yeah, and remember, you got to be concise, you got to be clear, you got to be friendly, you got to be accessible, and likable, right? I mean, those are all important ingredients to a successful interview. You're looking to apply to UT, Duke, Cornell, UVA, and Georgetown. I think those are all schools that are, in the pocket for you, right? Don't you think so, Sandy?
Yeah, with a 3.7 and a 7.20, you could try a little. You could be a little more aspirational.
Yeah, you could go for even a few more schools that are higher ranked than those. I mean, I think that those are great schools, and any of those schools will help you achieve, getting back to Morgan Stanley in a more meaningful substantive role.
Great. Okay. Thanks for being our
guinea pig.
Our surgical guinea pig, Mark.
Thank you.
Well, you're a well-spoken, you're attractive guy. Just got to get your story a little more
tightened down.
Absolutely.
Tightened down, yeah, polished.
All right. Hey, Mark, good luck to you. And Sandy, thank you yet again. And to all of you out there, we're hoping you have a wonderful Thanksgiving day with your family. And we're also hoping that your trip, your journey to business school is successful. Thanks. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants.